my fellow free will sovereign thinkers? Thank you for tuning in to L3 Podcast. My name is Craig, transmitting from the beautiful realm of the planet Earth, and today's date is Sunday, November 14, 2021. Today's episode number 1419 is entitled Singing National Anthem Earns a Beating and CFR's 100 Years of Global Manipulation. Well, I've been keeping tabs on what's going on with the Kyle Rittenhouse case, the so-called white supremacist, white privileged kid on trial for assault, battery, deadly weapon, and murder, and so forth. Well, what I observed that the prosecuting attorney has no credibility on the witnesses testifying against Mr. Rittenhouse. And the funny thing about it, people still fall for the mob justice, Salem's witch hunt fetish, or the Lizzie Borden syndrome. Guilty until proven innocent. Get him! Get him! You know how that goes? And that's why I tell people common law has to be honored regardless. And it's really funny, it makes me laugh because I've always observed these things. And I've been preaching to choirs, especially my listeners, forgive me, you're innocent until proven guilty, not the other way around. Who cares what the mainstream garbage media thinks? And Alan Dershowitz believed if he's found not guilty, Rittenhouse should sue the mainstream garbage media. I'm like, do it. Why not? I think it'd be great. Gotta get all these pundits, so-called pathetic experts, corporate bend-over Bobs, and Angel Mamas and Uncle Toms, all ethically speaking, that is. They should get what they deserve. That's why I don't watch this crap. It's comical. It's pathetic. It doesn't matter what paradigm. And everyone becomes experts by listening to these pundits. No, don't work like that. So I want to see how far this baby goes. It's supposed to be deliberation. And of course, he got some bunch of knuckleheads out there saying, oh yeah, we're going to raise havoc in Kenosha. No. When you bust them in, I think everyone in Kenosha, doesn't matter what they look at, should go there, get armed up. They get those butts, aim at it, they'll turn around. If not, shoot their damn tires and let them walk out of that town in shame. And I say that in good faith because the buck has to stop, and it can be done. People are tired of the propaganda machine and hired guns trying to destroy people's towns. That's the truth. Well, we're going to see how far this baby goes. And as I say, what I observed, the prosecuting attorney, yeah, he is a prostitute, a bod, needs to step down because he sucked at his job. That's how I look at it. Talking to people, talking to the defendant like he's some little kid. Come on. There's all his mind control tricks. What is he, Jim Jones? He has a I Love Jim Jones poster, an altar of it in his secret room. It's unmerited. Based on the trial. Not the pundits, but the case itself. It happened so many times. Now people are catching on to it. Don't fall for the trap. And you folks gonna go on this mob justice mentality. They don't give a damn about you. You're being used. You may get paid, but you're still a number. They'll use it against you when they, at their own convenience, at will, terminate you at will. Well, without further ado, I'm going to be reading a couple articles from the AmericanFreePress.net. So it's subscription only, so I encourage people to go on that website. So the first one here is based on the January 6th protest. Of course, written by Donald Jeffries. Singing the national anthem earns a beating. This is what he has to say here. A recent letter from unjustly imprisoned Nathan DeGrave described conditions in Washington, D.C. that sounds more like it depicted in the 1978 film Midnight Express. Audiences never imagined that such barbaric conditions could exist right here. Sadly, many Americans don't even think that what's happening to the January 6th protesters is in fact wrong. DeGrave, who faces 12 counts centered around entering the U.S. Capitol building, addressed his letter to my fellow Americans. It began, I never thought I'd write a letter like this, but we're living in very different times. This is my cry for help. The grave has been behind bars now for 9 months. He's dubbed his prison DC Gitmo and recounted beatings, starvation, and lack of medical care, among other things. He alleged that Jan Sixers have subjected to 23 or 24-hour lockdowns in their 120 square foot cells. A huge percentage of us are heavily medicated with anti-anxiety and antidepressant drugs, which help cope with the psychological and mental abuse we endure. The grave charge: masks are weaponized and used against us. Masks need to be covering both nose and mouth at all times, or we are threatened to end lockdown in our cells. And Jan Sixers are always respectful to the employees around us, but correctional officers maintain the need to invent reasons for discipline. The grave accused prison employees of seizing that important legal documents and bemoan the extreme medical neglect. Some even have COVID-like symptoms, but medical personnel have refused to treat them. Citing a few examples, the grave wrote, Chris Worrell, for example, is an inmate with cancer who also broke his hand in prison and required surgery. Both have been completely ignored. Federal Judge Royce Lambert got to the point where on October 12th he filed contempt of court charges against the warden of the DC DOC, claiming that Worrell's civil rights have been violated and demanding the Attorney General inquire further about his and other possible violations. Another inmate, Peter Stager, waited for months to receive his CPAP breathing machine and has needed an MRI since spring, which has also been ignored by staff. In addition, the grave noted on at least 5 occasions raw sewage has overflowed our unit, causing human facial matter to flood the floors and rooms. That's also in addition to the mold on cell walls, as well as rusty pipes and dirty water that flows from these sinks. White rags turn brown when exposed to the water from our faucets. Regarding their diet, the grave explained, we are undergoing severe nutritional deficiencies and starvation. For breakfast this morning, I have received a tray of flavorless paste, 2 slices of bread, and a slice of bologna. Lunches usually consist of rice and beans, but we'll get cold chicken, beef patties if we're lucky. For dinner, we are sometimes fed a diet of cheese sandwiches and bologna and cheese 4 to 5 times per week. Without commissionary, people like myself are forced to starve. I suffer from headaches and nausea on an almost regular basis from malnutrition and, constant hunger, and I'm subjected to. I have lost almost 15 pounds since I have been detained. The grave also complained that prisoners weren't allowed to shave or get haircuts. One prisoner was beaten for attempting to organize a Bible study group. The grave described how Ryan Samsel attempted to organize his own Bible study until he was viciously beaten and left for dead by correctional officers. He suffered a broken eye socket and a brain damage as a result of the vicious attack. He's now permanently blind in one eye. On another occasion, Scott Fairland was confronted by an officer in the middle of the night and his life was threatened. Once the officer's body cam was disabled, many like myself are afraid they could be the next victim. The grave revealed that the Jan Sixers were in danger not only from the majority black prison population, but mostly black guards, many of them who are African immigrants who seemingly hate America. The grave recounted, Jan Sixers have been mocked, beaten, and ridiculed by guards for singing the national anthem. The correctional officers despise our politics and the love we have for this country. At one point, one officer even yelled "F America" and threatened to lock us down for a week if we attempted to sing the national anthem again. I say do the damn thing, if that tyrannical butt boy don't like it, too effing bad. The Grave complained, "I'm being unfairly prosecuted and definitely overcharged. I never assaulted anyone, destroyed property, or stole anything. I walked through wide open doors to enter the Capitol. Along with my camera crew, hoping to get the rally on video. I was never even armed at any point inside the Capitol. Such injustice occurring in the United States with so few high-profile figures protesting illustrates the cold reality of America 2.0. Well, I'll be very frank. These patterns been going on for a very long time, especially when they created Homeland Security 2 days after the horrific events on 9/11. I was against this from the very beginning. Now they're bringing in people, the non-citizens, to work in these positions. It's downright despicable, deplorable, and everyone in there should be charged for contempt. And I could say treason, RICO, give you a few. And if convicted, these scumbags that are in there should be deported back to the place they came from. And let's see how much power they have. Because I know a lot of those areas in places in Africa, for an example, are very wicked. It's been like that. That area's been like that for a very long time when it comes to tyranny. All you gotta do is read the history books there. On it. Trust me, it's not a joke. So they want to get rid of the First, Eighth, and Ninth Amendments, and the Sixth. First, Sixth, Eighth, and Ninth of the U.S. Constitution. This whole thing is nothing more than a sham. Like I tell everyone, I'll say it again, the D.C. riots was an inside job. And there's political prisoners before the Jan 6th. This has to be stopped. And I know one thing, that piece of garbage, Merrick Garland, makes Benedict Arnold a true patriot. Anyone gets offended, who the hell cares? The truth hurts. If you don't like it, stick it. Why? Because I can make those statements and I can back it up. Now, a lot of these people there have done nothing wrong. This is why I say it again. I'm convinced the reason why John Schaefer pleaded guilty, because he sees the debacle what's going on. He has a family too. And also, all you folks out there, always think about free Nelson Mandela back then. Free the Jan 6ers. If not, you're a bunch of damn hypocrites. And one thing I can tell you folks is very unacceptable. Hope for the best for all the political prisoners in the United States and around the world. Stand for what's right and being crucified. This is unacceptable. Period. Well, I'm going to do another article here, one more. I'm going to make one pretty brief. And this one by Mark Anderson. CFR, 100 years of global manipulation. Powerful think tanks. Centennial features candid video on his globalist pedigree. Let's see what the CFR, see what Mr. Anderson has to say about this. Yes. We did not even watch the entire 10 minutes of the Council of Foreign Relations 100th anniversary video to encounter clear signs that his infamous foreign policy think tank, born on the ashes of World War I and incorporated in 1921 in New York City, an especially powerful private rudder of the U.S. ship of the state. Yet the CFR is, for the most part, unbeknownst to a vast number of Americans. That ship of state having has its constitutional compass sabotaged by the internationalist, industrialist, banking, Wall Street combined that form the CFR has been careening into choppy seas ever since, under the CFR's mantra that charting a clear course of America's first is a navally dangerous direction to take, but pumping U.S.-born aid and oftentimes its military forces into far-flung regions is a glorious path to the nebulous world order that our young men and women in uniform are expected to fight and die for when necessary. Right at the onset, a new centennial video on the CFR's website, quote, the equally nebulous Colonel Edward Mandel House, widely known as President Woodrow Wilson's stone-faced handler, and saying, let us mingle with other nations as of one of them and not stand as one apart. Notably, House led Wilson around as one walks a poodle, and that's all the more interesting when you consider that his one and only novel, a futuristic work entitled Philip Drew Administrator, is essentially a self-portrait of his desire to manage monopoly capitalism with socialism dreamed of by Karl Marx, House's own words. Furthermore, this consummate insider was instrumental in greasing the skids for creation of the Federal Reserve System that converted the American people into economic slaves via a usurious debt-based money system. And to think that this man also was one of the key members of the Inquiry, a 150-member gang of the brightest minds, tasked by Wilson with crafting a lasting peace during the 1919 Treaty of Versailles talk in Paris that formally ended World War I, CFR source says. The CFR itself, which boasts that it has been helping America play a vital part on the world stage for 100 years, via bold ideas while providing research, a forum for debate, and proposing policies, recalled that the Inquiry helped guide Wilson's vision for the post-war order. As explained by the CFR, 21 of the members of the Inquiry, a couple of years before the CFR's formation, set sail with President Wilson in January 1919 abroad, the USS George Washington. Can we say he's rolling in his grave? To work the sidelines of the Versailles Peace Conference, where Wilson presented his 14 points from a post-war order, and the European powers agreed to Wilson's idea of League of Nations. But in the end, the U.S. Senate rejected the U.S. entry into the League, which nevertheless went on without U.S. participation for 26 years until its dissolution 75 years. On April 19th, 1946. So yeah, people watching football out here, so you know how that goes. The church of the NFL. That's on April 19th, 1946. Interesting time about April 19th, right? The 21 select members of the Inquiry were led by Colonel House and included globalist journalist Walter Lippmann. They were undeterred by the Senate's refusal to join the League over unjustifiable concerns about loss of national sovereignty. The House clique compensated for their loss by forming the CFR to continue encouraging American participation in world affairs. Interestingly, the CFR's 1921 Articles of Incorporation described the organization as a continuous conference that is a conference and never adjourns and addresses international questions affecting the U.S. by bringing together experts on statecraft, finance, industry, and education and science. It's funny because he had three photos here. Joseph Boris Tito, Fidel Castro, and Robert Mugabe, honored speakers at several Council of Foreign Relations events over the decades. Yes, so can we say Fidel Castro was a globalist hack? Yep, so was Mugabe, and so was Tito. Yippee yapping yahoo. So all you Castro worshippers out there, you've been duped. All right, this is an interesting choice of words among many in the CFR lexicon. The above noted CFR Centennial video also explains that upon its incorporation, the CFR arranged as its first major event a visit by former French Prime Minister Georges Clemenceau to tour the nation and speak. But for the most part, early CFR members focus on behind-the-scenes influence. The video's narration adds, making a rather revealing statement for an organization that denies its major power behind the throne and bristles at the mere suggestion that it has conspiratorial tendencies or that it has much, if anything, to do with policymaking. What soon followed was the CFR's creation of its quarterly journal, Foreign Affairs, edited from 1928 to 1973 by once Hamilton Fish Armstrong, a Princeton-educated journalist who had served as a military attaché in Serbia during the First World War. Foreign Affairs soon became the leading journal in the U.S. and the world, making its way to the desk of leaders like Vladimir Lenin, the Soviet premier who has just overseen the murderous Bolshevik revolution, says the CFR without a peep about Lenin's bloody-handed rule. Indeed, while the CFR over the decades would have a hissy fit over even the slightest sign that America would eschew globalism and return to the dreaded confines of what the CFR calls isolationism, actually non-interventionism, the elite organization never seemed bothered by the criminal backgrounds, murderous actions, and or tyrannical policies of those with whom it arranged to address the CFR itself. These included Communist Fidel Castro, Joseph Broz Tito, and Nikolai Cusco, along with similarity-minded criminal revolutionaries like Nelson Mandela and Robert Mugabe from the African continent. Mugabe, in fact, was a monster who ruled with an iron fist and tortured or murdered anyone who crossed him for over 2 decades. Thus, it cannot be overstated that the criminality of these leaders was often in full swing when they addressed the CFR, as James Perloff, considered by many to be the top author about the CFR in alt media circles, has told AFP the CFR, not content with policy planning solely from behind the scenes, covered all the bases by making itself into a wellspring of personnel to serve in its top State Department, intelligence, and defense positions. Even while CFR members have served under the both dominant and political parties in the House and Senate, e.g. former Wyoming Senator Dick Cheney in his earlier years. Furthermore, CFR members have populated key media posts, e.g. nighttime NBC's longtime national anchor Tom Brokaw, CBS's longtime anchor Dan Rather, the New York Times' Leslie Gelb, who served as a CFR president and studied under CFR heavyweight Harry Kissinger at Harvard, and the Post principal owner of the now deceased Katharine Graham, to name only a few. Well, you got to look at all these angles, because one thing I'd let you know, friends, these are pieces of work that hate liberty and want conformity. You don't want everyone to become a number. You don't want everyone to be their bawds or whores or demonads. Just, I say it synonymously. Well, talk about Nazis. Yeah, the CFR, don't be afraid, the CFR is involved in that as well. This is what the globalists want. They want a one world order. They want you to belly up. Now look what's going on with COVID-19. Yeah, talk about Australia. Some of the people took the bait, and in due time, everything went along with as it's planned. So this is why I support natural law, not man's law. And everyone in the world out there needs to do this. Defy all these globalist hacks and tell them to stick it. And I'll say this. It's a great time to be alive because we are witnessing a spiritual awakening. It's going to be a rough ride regardless. Prepare yourselves, hope for the best, and remain vigilant, be consistent. And decentralization is the key, regardless where you act. So you say no to the CFR and death to the global order. And that will be it. I thank everyone for listening. But feel free to download and share us throughout the social media networks. If you have questions, comments, or something interesting to check out, whatever you do, please send your correspondence to the forum. Furthermore, I'll leave the footnotes. I can't leave the footnotes. I'll leave the subscription. I'll leave the website AmericanFreePress.net on the show. On the site. The link. Sorry about that. But if you want to contact me, go via email, lookyourluck03@protonmail.com. If you want to donate, you can go to paypal.me or cash.app/lookyourluck3. If you want to support the American Free Press, donate subscription. I encourage it. Because, hey, when it comes to the media, they need us, but we need them. Plain and simple. So, vote for your money. Choose wisely. That is all. Once again, thank you for your time. But always remember that the demonic resistance is healthy for the soul and can liberate humanity. Until next time, take care of yourselves. Keep on spreading the love. And may your guardian spirits be with you.